It is 1 o'clock, so we are starting this FRED meeting of Fiscal Responsibility and Economic Development today on Tuesday, March 19th. Having said that, we're going to go ahead into the meeting. Well, first we'll just call the roll.
Senator Butler. Senator Carnley. Senator Chastain. Senator Coleman. Senator Figures. Senator Gavan. Here. Senator Hatcher. Senator Hovey. Here. Senator Kelly. Here. Senator Melson. Senator Roberts. Here. Senator Sessions. Senator Weaver. Here. Senator Gudger.
Here. We have a quorum, so now we can conduct business. Having said that, we'll go on into our first bill, SB 112 by Senator Gavan. The mic is yours, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is my annual pilgrimage to bring y'all a Big Bertha bill from the ALI, and I call it Keeping Up with the Delawares, and that's exactly what we're doing, is making changes. You know, first of all, lawyers draft stuff, and then we spend some more time on it and go, well, we need to move this comma right over here, and we need to move a semicolon here, and then we need to swap the spelling of potato here. And so this is just a cleanup bill, and it's in par for what we've got, or what we've done in the past several years from ALI. I hope there's no questions because I don't want to answer them. But
Mr. Chairman, I move favorable.
I have a motion for favorable, Senator Roberts. We have a second, Senator Weaver. Any further discussion? Having none, is it all in favor? Well, please call the roll.
Senator Butler. Senator Carnley. Senator Chastain. Senator Coleman. Senator Figures. Senator Gavan.
Aye.
Senator Hatcher. Aye. Senator Hovey. Aye. Senator Kelly. Aye. Senator Melson. Senator Roberts.
Aye.
Senator Sessions. Senator Weaver. Aye. Senator Gudger.
Aye. That is it. 8-0 votes. SB 112 passes. Senator Gavan, congratulations. And we're going to give the mic right back to you on SB 191, sir.
Well, thank you, sir. So what we've got is a situation that, and I guess I was made aware of this about a year or so ago when there was a contemplation that ABC would get a new warehouse. The warehouse that they have is antiquated, can't handle the volume, really is putting a burden on particularly, I think, the private sector in terms of getting product out that the market is demanding. And, that being an aside, that was going to be a lease situation because the law does not allow the ABC board to own its own property. Now, we can get into the wisdom of that as a broad base, in terms of the retail stores, but that is a political fight I'm not interested in. And so all this does is says, notwithstanding any other provision of this title, the board may acquire and hold in its own name real property, and they cannot condemn it. So they would have to, buy it or be given it solely for the purpose of owning and operating a warehouse or warehouses. Now, some people somehow think solely for the purposes of owning and operating a warehouse or warehouses means that they can own their retail stores. I mean, I did learn how to read at some point in time. I'm pretty confident this only covers warehouses. But I just think it's ridiculous that we can't own our own warehouse in the state of Alabama. And so any questions, I'd be glad to discuss it.
We have a motion from Senator Hatcher, second from Senator Carnley. Any further discussion? Having none, anybody okay with using previous roll? And Senator Coleman, we added you to the roll, is that correct? And Senator Butler? And Senator Sessions. So we have a total of 11-0. That bill, which is SB 191, passes. Congratulations, Senator Gavan. I think it's well needed and past time to have done that. Next is SB 167. Senator Coleman, I believe the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I believe that the members also have a substitute for Senate Bill 167. But in essence, what the bill does is, in the event that a business in the state of Alabama receives some type of public funding, a subsidy, if it is found that the suppliers, the company itself, they have turned a blind eye to human trafficking, or if there have been some child labor issues, we want to make sure that we recapture those funds. We call it a clawback clause if they are in those violations. So the sub actually was brought to me by the Department of Commerce. And we are here today to accept that sub based on the negotiations that we've had. And then there is one amendment also to the bill.
Okay, so I think just as being chairman, we'll stop here and go ahead and introduce the sub, and we'll be voting on the sub. That should be in front of you, committee members. At the top, it should be NUID 888-1. Is that what everybody's got? And on that sub, I believe it really just took out the subsidiaries and suppliers, if I'm not mistaken, from that.
Well, we want to put that back with the amendment. Let me give you the rationale from the Department of Commerce of why the substitute is necessary. The sub removes, and they are here. Someone is here, I believe, from the department. I don't have my glasses on, Mr. Chair.
Stephanie is here with the Department of Commerce.
So she's here too. If the committee wants to hear why we need the sub from the Department of Commerce.
Stephanie, we'd love to if you'd like to come to the mic if you wanted to.
I was just going to read the comments, but she's here.
Thank you, Senator Coleman.
I'm actually going to bring Erica McKay, who's our general counsel as well. She's the one that actually drafted the language for the substitute, so she can give you from a legal perspective why we did it the way we did. But in essence, we did two things with the substitute. We removed the provision that the Secretary of Commerce must be the one that makes the findings. She's just that office is just not. That's just not what they're able to do. And secondly, and most very important, we removed the subsidiaries and the suppliers only because we just don't have a way to enforce that. We these businesses that we enter into these project agreements with that we incentivize, those businesses do not have to disclose to us the full list of their suppliers and subsidiaries. And with somebody, for example, like Hyundai, that could be hundreds or more. And we just don't have the ability to be that far-reaching and hold that company liable for all of those relationships. However, we do take those types of allegations very seriously and have and will investigate any company that we find that is doing business within the state of Alabama. And we have done it in the past on a few occasions.
Which
Right,
obviously
so-
that's who we have control and authority over anyway.
Correct.
Senator Coleman, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry for I kind of can just kind of butt in, but sorry about that. So we've been texting back and forth about the amendment that I have that actually puts the subsidiaries and the suppliers back in. And here's the rationale. If the Department of Labor, if someone has already made that determination, but I don't want us to let those folks go in the event that they also have benefited from public funds. That's the rationale of putting that piece back in. It'll be up to the pleasure of the committee, but we would like to have that piece added back in.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator, so you'll be second Senator Sessions. Senator Gavan, you're first.
Well, thank you. Thank you for recognizing me. So this is something I know. Well, I know nothing about human trafficking violators. I know nothing about people that violate the child labor laws. Your substitute, I think, is much improved, and I will support adoption of the substitute when it comes time for that. As far as and I guess as far as the right order, I guess, Mr. Chairman, we really need to adopt the sub before we get to the amendment.
That's correct.
I would move adoption of the sub.
We have a motion, Senator Gavan. We have a second, Senator Weaver. And then before discussion, Senator Sessions, can we talk to you during this time? Is that okay?
I won't mind on the amendment.
Yours on the amendment?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other discussions on the substitute? We're voting on the substitute. And can we use previous roles? Is that okay? Any objections? Having none, that substitute has now been passed 11-0. We're now on to the amendment that Senator Coleman was talking about. Senator Sessions, let's go ahead and have discussion first. You're up.
I think I understand what you're trying to get at, but, with some of these extremely large companies that are, say, Austal, Airbus, Hyundai, Toyota, a lot of these subsidiaries are not in this country. And so how are you going to control if their supplier is from China, and you know good and well that they're probably not going by the standards of our labor laws, are you going to hold
Well, Senator Session, of
Toyota.
course, you would understand jurisdictionally, we would only be able to deal with those folks that are here
companies
in
that
this
are
state of Alabama. The supplier piece, though, and why I'm kind of holding on that piece, there are situations where the larger corporation actually owns the supplier also. I just want to make sure that anybody that's in violation has to, they have to adhere to the same rules. And so that is the piece for me when it comes to the supplier end, especially, and that's a good compromise, I believe, if in the event that the larger entity that has gotten the state incentive, that has gotten these public funds, if they also own that supplier and they are found to be in violation, that supplier then also has to give that money back. We just want to make sure anybody who has unclean hands, for the lawyers in the room, that they all pay the piper, which is giving the taxpayer dollars back to the taxpayers of the state of Alabama.
We do have multiple comments real quick. Senator Sessions, since you're going, it was your mic. Go ahead, then we'll do to Senator Gavin, then
My only
Senator
other
Kelly.
question would be to Commerce. Are y'all okay with this amendment?
I'm Erica McKay. I'm General Counsel for Commerce, and I would very much prefer not to have that amendment in there. It's
Thank you.
virtually impossible.
That's all. You answer.
Okay.
Senator Gavin.
So, I've had the opportunity to work on some, pretty significant, in fact, the most significant development we've ever had in North Alabama with Mazda Toyota. And, I've worked on some of the suppliers around it as well. I get your subsidiary, but being a supplier and being a subsidiary are, very, very different things. I mean, there are properties that are Mazda Toyota suppliers that are in view of, they're building, the Mazda Toyota people are going to see it all the time. They're not going to know what's happening inside that building. They're not going to know who they're hiring or what they're doing. And they shouldn't be penalized because the subsidiary is a bad actor. There is no nexus there at all. And, as far as subsidiaries, I think we've also got to get into theirs. What kind of, what level of ownership? Are they a 10% owner and have little information, or are they an insider and have, 99% or 100% ownership? That I get 100%. I get that they own it for a subsidiary, but for a
Thank you for
supplier,
that.
I cannot support that at all.
Mr. Chairman, for the sake of time, can we, this is what I'm proposing to Commerce. I want to make sure, again, as I've said, any bad actor has to pay the piper. We get the bill out today in the absence of the amendment. Will you all work with me on an amendment to make sure anybody who is a subsidiary or a large percentage, whatever that is, of a supplier that knowingly does this, that they also have to pay the piper? I just want to make sure. Can we do that today?
Sure. I'm having a difficult time, though, creating a nexus between the supplier, no matter what ownership, because
I have faith in you, though. If we get the bill out today, I have faith in you as the learned attorney that you are, that we will be able to come up with something.
Okay.
And Senator Kelly, do you still want to talk? You're recognized if you do.
Well, I think I echo the comments there is, we're looking at trying to pass something here, although it doesn't sound like we're going to go forward, that's basically unenforceable.
It truly is. It's difficult. We have no way of knowing all of the subsidiaries, all of the suppliers that are engaging with this incentivized company. And so even if there is a violation, how is Commerce going to receive some sort of notice of that? We have no notice of who these entities are.
Mr. Chairman.
Senator Gavan's recognized first, and then Senator Sessions.
Well, I think, I understand the concern over the subsidiaries because unless they're identified, but a supplier can be a subsidiary, but we don't need to include suppliers. I think that needs to be removed from the entire dialogue, that we can talk about subsidiaries and work on a definition of subsidiaries. that maybe that commerce can deal with, but suppliers, there may be a 0% ownership. So I don't think until you reach a percentage, and to me, it's 50% plus one as the bare minimum, because that's the control, then the parent shouldn't be punished unless they've got that kind of control over the sub. But a supplier, it doesn't matter. There could be 100% captive audience, and that you're selling 100% of your stuff to Mazda, Toyota, and you don't know what they're doing still, and it shouldn't be their job in an arm's length transaction to go in and have to audit them to protect their incentive package.
Mr. Chairman, as he
Senator
stated.
Sessions, you're up next.
Okay, I'm
I
sorry.
make a motion to adopt the sub
Thank you.
as printed.
We've done the sub. We're just not going to do the
So
amendment.
give it a favorable report.
Okay, sounds great. Before we do that, last is Senator Coleman.
I was just saying that the gentleman had stated that previously, and I welcome him to work with me on the amendment as well.
I want to take a moment here as chairman, but say thank you and commend you, because I know what you're doing and where your heart is on this whole
Thank
deal.
you.
And I think everybody on this committee understands it too. You start dealing with child labor and you start dealing with human trafficking, we totally understand. So thank you for that. I believe that what we are is actually a motion to table the amendment and wait until the floor. If you can work with Senator Gavan.
I don't know if we actually offered it.
We haven't.
It was never
we
fully
haven't.
offered.
I just want to
so
say, is that what you're doing, or just totally withdraw it right now?
I'll just withdraw it at this moment as a
Okay.
good faith effort that folks will be working with me on it moving
We need to
forward.
move for adoption. Senator Sessions was on that, so he made the motion. Senator Gavan was second. Using previous roll, any objections? Having none, that's 11-0 vote. Thank you, Ms. McKay. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you so
I
much.
appreciate you both. Senator Coleman, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is Senator Gudger, SB 177. Ladies and gentlemen, this is for natural gas districts, that is just local districts that are made by municipalities. At least one person from each municipality would be on those local districts. We obviously have one in Coleman, Alabama that represents everything from Jefferson County and Blount County and Coleman County. And all we're doing is doing a pay increase that they have requested. And I'd like to move that up, but I'd like that to put that out as a motion for adoption of this particular bill. We have a second, Senator Weaver. Any further discussion of using previous roll? Having none, that's 11-0 passes. Next, Senator Sessions, you're up. SB 204, sir.
This is a piece of legislation come up. Representative Wilcox has this legislation in the House. The Department of Revenue had kind of handed off something to the over to the Secretary of State, and it's an annual filing for corporations, and there's really no need for that. It's kind of a duplication of they're already on file. There's really no need for an annual report, and all this does away with that annual report. And
Senator
there's
Sessions, I believe you have
there
an
is
amendment.
Yes.
Okay, so we have an amendment that if you look at it, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like this if you're looking, about a half a page. Senator Sessions, you want to talk about that, or are you just ready for adoption of the amendment?
Yeah, it's just clarifying what they're talking about as far as the office of the principal executive office, where the corporation or foreign corporations are located. It's just some clarification of it.
Thank you. So we have a motion from Senator Sessions to adopt the amendment. We have a second from Senator Weaver. Any further discussion? Having none, using previous roll, no objections. All right, so that's 11-0. The amendment has been adopted. Now we're on the final bill as amended. What's the pleasure of the committee? SB 204.
No. What's the bill seeking to do? We're talking about removing some.
Yeah, a lot of these small companies, they're already registered with the Secretary of State, but they were doing an annual report, having to file an annual report, and it's just the Secretary of State really they don't want to have to do it. It's costing them more to keep up with it and basically verify these annual reports than it's really worth. So
So who would do it? Because this is an accountability piece. Who would be doing
well,
it?
now the corporations are already, well, maybe I should, it's the Business Service Division processing the annual reports for domestic and foreign nonprofit corporations and professional corporations. And the change resulted when we did an act in 2022, and the Department of Revenue, originally they were listed with the Department of Revenue. Now they're going, at Department of Revenue shifted it over to Secretary of State. Secretary of State really don't want this on their plate. They would like to basically just stop having them to have to report.
So I guess in the absence of the Secretary of State doing it, who would do it? Department of Revenue gets it? Because somebody needs to be,
I think we have Secretary of State, somebody from his office here.
Yeah.
But before we do that, may I ask Senator Roberts, you were up first from the committee. Would you like to speak now or after Secretary of State's representative? Jonathan Hester, I believe you're in the audience. Can you come up and help answer Senator Hatcher's question? Senator Hatcher, you're recognized.
Yes, sir. I'll just speak briefly about the bill. So basically, what happened when we cut the business privilege tax in 2022, there was a statutory change that took the annual report that was being filed with them and put it under our office. The information is already filed with the Department of Revenue, so they have all this information already. It's created red tape for small businesses that are currently having to file an extra piece of paper with our office. CPAs Association and small business owners have both reached out about this issue. CPAs are having to charge extra money to small business owners to get this filed with our office, and all we do is store it. So all the information is still stored with the Department of Revenue. It was just a statutory change that it fell upon us to take this annual report that's never been filed with us before, and it's now filed starting in January of this year.
in just an abbreviated sense,
Yeah.
what the people who are reading, I'm assuming, if people are filing a report on these, somebody's reading this with an understanding of some measure of accountability for something. So I guess I'm trying to get, where is this parked? Because you're saying that your department is just archived.
It was the
Nobody's
small
reading it.
businesses. It's the ones that
Small
only paid
businesses?
the $100 fee a year. It's those small businesses that were just paying that minimal fee. Remember, we did away with that? And so there's no fee being paid, so there's no money to
so-
really,
So when they're saying domestic and foreign corporations, is this implying these are small businesses that are filing these annual reports?
I'll let you.
So the way it is written, yes, but that is the overarching terminology. And our lawyer's not here. I would have him speak on it. But if you have more questions, he'd be more than happy.
I guess my main point, Mr.
Yeah.
Hester, is if we're doing away with an already reporting agency, and I'm just concerned about who, at this point, would be the source for accountability. And what I'm hearing you say, this is kind of duplicitous, right? That
It is.
You have one, so, I understand, if we got people doing it, we probably could save money if we just got one, and I'm just not clear on who's doing it. You see where I'm going with this?
Yes, sir. So the annual reports that they're filing with the Department of Revenue, they're still going through. So it does not change reporting requirements there.
Okay. So Department of Revenue is the streaming source for these annual reports.
Still maintains all the information.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir, Senator Hatcher. Senator Roberts, you wrote first, then Senator Gavan second.
I'm struggling with this. You can come back up. Yeah.
Thought it was free.
What about a bad actor that comes in anywhere in this process from here? Do you think that will get caught with Revenue?
So previously, this is the first time that it's ever been filed under our office, starting in January. So previously, these filings were all under the Department of Revenue. All the information is still stored there. So they're the ones that, obviously, with their taxation money, their taxation forms, they're still getting all that information. So if there is a bad actor, then yes, it would fall under the Department of Revenue.
Senator Gavan?
Okay, so when I'm checking out, when I'm getting ready to do a closing, and I'm checking out a company, and I'm trying to find out either who owns the property for purposes of contract, or trying to figure out who owns it for purposes of closing, I go to Secretary of State's office. I don't go to the website. I've never gone to Revenue. Is there a place where I can go and look and see who the members and the managers and officers are on the Department of Revenue's website?
Yes, sir. The business filings are still housed on our website. So the initial filings of the businesses are still housed there.
Yeah,
It does not change that at all.
It's not changing that. It's the annual report.
No, but they change over time. I mean, you deal with a company, and sometimes it says, and I don't know why it's not updated, but it says the owners are X, Y, Z, and then you go in there and find out, no, it's ABC.
Any changes.
And, and one of the concerns I've got is that somebody could just go in there, they already do it now with vacant land. They try to figure out, okay, nobody's in possession of that house, or nobody's possessing that It's just vacant, it's air property, whatever, and they go in there and they act like they own it, and then they sell it, and somebody's going to get burned. It may be the original owners that just sleep on their rights. It may be the person that buys it when the owner comes in and says, "What are you doing in my house?" or "What are you doing on my lot?" And it just seems to me like you're creating an opportunity for people to go in there and just start voluntarily filing and go, "Oh yeah, I am ABC Corporation. Here is the information." And the next thing you know, because the owner's been sitting on their rights, they've got a problem.
Senator Hatcher, you recognized.
I promise I'm done after this. My concern, because I want to support Senator Sessions' bill, I'm just concerned, as my colleagues have said, about who would be. This is far too ambiguous for me to do away with what I can hold someone. I don't hold anyone responsible for anything that I have not said, that as a matter of accountability. And so I'm just not clear at this point on who would be doing that, right? Because a part of what I'm hearing, which means we got to look at you all now, because you're saying you'll get information and you all just archive it. I'm thinking if I'm submitting an annual report, that's a reporting document that should cite some of what Senator Gavan is saying. I should be able, without him, Joe Q. Public having to do the search on the site, that there should be something that's caught by individuals who, for the most part, in say your agency or department and Department of Revenue, who would be able to know that this is happening. And I think we've become far too sophisticated regarding business, multinationals, to not have some sort of piece in place that is existing, even if it needs improving right now, right? Rather than simply taking it away. So that's my concern, is how are we at this point going to be holding folk accountable who are submitting these reports? Is that kind of at this point?
I understand what you're saying. So everything previous to January 1 of this year does not change. So this was something that was in the business privilege tax that came about 2 years ago in 2022. So anything that you would look up previous information on our website about corporations, about businesses that are incorporated in the state of Alabama, none of that changes. The only thing that happened with this is that when that was changed in 2022, the annual reports that were previously filed with ADOR by taxpayers under the former BPT threshold must now be filed with Secretary of State's office pursuant to pre-existing law. So that's how the change happened. So nothing prior to January 1st of this year changes at all. So they would still have the same reporting to us and the same reporting to ADOR.
Senator Sessions, I'm back to you. You have any comments or anything else from the committee at all?
Like I say, I think there's some more questions on this. I would like to go ahead and pass it out today. The House sponsor, we come up against this with some of our constituents down home and some of our CPAs saying they're having to, actually the $100 that they were paying in a business privilege fee previously is getting eaten up by a CPA to fill this report out and send it to Secretary of State. And there's some confusion, and a lot of people didn't do it because they were already filing with the Department of Revenue, and when we changed the law, it got a lot of people confused. And I think we're just trying to do away with a little red tape. The businesses still have to pay their taxes. The small businesses still have to report and pay their taxes to the Department of Revenue just like they always do. They're still on file with the Secretary of State. It's just the annual reporting that we're talking about. Now, I can understand the concerns about the change in ownership. I can see that concern. So there may be some work we need to do on this, a little bit of work we need to do on this before it gets to the floor. But at this time, I'd like to move it out of committee, Mr. Chairman, unless the committee, but we do need to answer these questions and make sure it's clear before we get to the floor.
All right, we have this on the floor with the amended version already adopted, so we're voting on the amended adoption of this particular bill. But before we do that, we're going to have discussion. Senator Gavan.
I just want everybody to know I love Satsumas and I love Senator Sessions. So I'm going to vote for this bill today, even though I can't vote for it if it doesn't change. But thank you.
Okay, in good spirit, I like that. Any further discussion, Senator?
I have a quick question.
Carnley.
Jonathan. What now?
You're up, Senator Carnley.
Can you just explain quickly what's in the report, this annual report?
Yes, sir. So basically, it's just basic information about the company. So it's the filing information that was previously with ADOR that's already in their taxation information. So it just creates a second report that comes to us. So it's just basic information about the company.
So this is just corporate name, tax ID number, address,
And I'm more than happy.
stockholders.
I'm more than happy to send you guys a copy of one as soon as we get.
And to address Senator Gavan's question, like when they file for a change, do they still have to come to the Secretary of State whenever they change that corporate structure, stockholder information?
Yes, sir. So I believe, so if that is included in the pre-January 1, then yes, nothing changes about this. This is specifically about the new annual report that's fallen under us this year. So everything that was previous to January 1 is still the same.
Any further discussion from the committee before we vote? Having none, okay, we're voting on the amended version of the bill, SB 204. Senator Sessions, obviously you've got some cleaning up to do with Senator Gavan and Senator Coleman or Senator Hatcher or whoever. Yeah, so having said that, we'll take a roll call vote on this one. We have a second by Senator Weaver.
Senator Butler. Senator Carnley. Senator Chastain. Senator Coleman. Senator Figurs. Senator Gavan.
Aye with reservations.
Senator Hatcher. Senator Hovey. Senator Kelly. Senator Melson. Senator Roberts. Senator Sessions. Senator Weaver. Senator Gudger.
Aye. That's 11-0 vote with a little bit of cleanup. Senator Sessions, your bill passes committee today, and get it ready for the floor. Next on the agenda is SB 213 from Chairman Orr, and I'll pass these around. I'll take about half and pass this way. You go the other way. No, just a data about it. Senator Orr, you're recognized, please, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, members. This is a bill, I've sent around a memo from LSA that attempts to bring into some form of accountability data brokers. You say, well, what's a data broker? A data broker is somebody who's going to buy data. I see somebody in the insurance business here. They may go to the insurer and say, we want all the homeowners from the insurance company in a particular geographical area over the age of 50, and they buy that data. And when you sign those long documents, many times it says we have the right to release your data to others. So it gets sold, and the broker takes that composite and then will resell it to somebody that wants information on homeowners over the age of 50 in a particular geographical area. That's kind of a strained context, but it's the Wild West. This bill attempts to start bringing some order to this because our personal data is out there. Now, I had some people when this got put on the committee agenda contact me with some amendments, willing to visit those, but like one of them came from a government entity. Well, all government entities are expressly excluded and taken out, doesn't apply to them. So there's some education that's going to have to go on, but I would appreciate the committee's indulgence in moving this along. Also, if you notice something, I noticed that on this memo down at the bottom, it says in 2021, there was a similar bill, HB 216, and I found out the sponsor was Representative Lipscomb, so I want to get with him and see what he learned. But this is something I believe as a policy matter we need to address in our state, and would appreciate the committee's favorable report. There are no lobbyists pushing this bill.
Senator Gudger.
We have
Good government.
We'll have discussion in one moment. We have a motion for adoption from Senator Butler.
Second.
We have a second from Senator Roberts. Is that what you were going to say, Senator Roberts?
And I want to,
Any further discussion?
I have one thing.
Senator Roberts, you're recognized.
Senator Orr, this is a great bill. I think about this regularly. There's more to do with this,
Absolutely.
fully aware, but this is a good first step.
It's a start.
It is.
It is, you see Tennessee's example there in Florida. This is based on the Texas model. I'm interested to input. If any of you all want to provide it, be glad to do it. And then, like I said, there were some interested parties that have some proposed amendments that we'll look at.
And we have no amendments today that we
No.
know of here. It's just passing this bill out of committee. Senator Coleman, you're recognized.
Thank you. So Now, let me be honest, and I'm going to say this, knowing that this is being live streamed, like my mind drifted a little bit while you were talking, so I missed some of what you said. Still trying to kind of reconcile some of the things that were said on Senate Bill 167, so I kind of drifted away a little bit.
Distill it.
Just a little bit. So, but what I'm trying to find out from you, Senator, because I like to know sometime what's the story. Like what happened, like why we were here. And I did hear you as I was drifting, something about insurance companies.
Well, that was an example.
That was but
pulled it out of the air.
But is there a story? Is there something that has happened, something that you know about, something that a constituent called you about?
You see the memo there, it mentions Texas, Tennessee, and Florida. There are a lot of other states that have done this. Now there's an organization that says a lot of states are not going far enough with this. Delaware has a 50-something page bill that I looked at. This is a first step to bring some requirements to data brokers and say you got to have your security in line. You got to register with the Secretary of State. You got to do some what I would call very rudimentary steps if you're buying people's data and then turn around and selling it. Now, I don't like the fact that they can even buy it, but that's another day, another dollar. Because our data is everywhere.
It is.
And it's out there, and when we sign up for something, we do something, it's gone.
I mean, we're discussing, I think I have a little bit better clarity. I do want to have some more time to read through this memo, but, even this right here, we're talking about selling our data, but this right here, I don't know how many times I have just been talking about something, and then it shows up in an ad on my phone. And so you're exactly right. Our data and our footprint is everywhere. I think I have a little bit more of an understanding. I'm going to support you today, Senator, but I do want to read through this Legislative Service Agency full memo prior to going to the floor.
It's scary what they have out there.
Chairman Orr, I've got a question. This is for, you said the data sets that are the brokers, that's for buying and selling. There's restrictions on both ends of that, or is it just one side?
There's no restrictions. It doesn't stop. It doesn't say you can't do it. It just puts requirements for cybersecurity. If you get it, you've got to have in place security apparatus if you're a broker and dealing in other people's data.
So just for example, there's an app, they collect your data because you signed up for the app. By having that, you have to have that where it's secure on yours, and if you do sell it.
That would be up to the person that has the app to make sure it's secure, and there are cybersecurity laws in effect. And if there's a breach, we passed a bill several years ago that we sponsored, and requires the notification. This doesn't deal with this. This is just putting some minimal standards in place for the brokers. Again, I would love and say, tell all business between us senators, is you can't sell people's data without their permission if they permit it. But that long list of, that legalese is embedded in there that you give them permission if you want the loan or you want the insurance or you want whatever.
Right. I think everyone's affected by this bill. Any further discussion? And do we have a first and second? We do. So are we ready to vote? Can we use previous roll? That would have been 11-0. Without objections, we can. So it's 11-0. Chairman Orr, thank you.
Thank you.
The bill passes.
Chairman.
Next is HB 177. Senator Wes Kitchens will be carrying this for Representative Sales. Senator Kitchens, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is actually the companion bill to a bill that came up before you a few weeks ago. We've already passed that out of the Senate.
Favorable from Senator Roberts, second Senator Weaver. All in favor of using previous roll without objection?
Just a question, just to make sure that it is the identical version of the bill that we passed out?
It is, yes,
Okay.
it's identical.
All right.
With the answer to the question, I think we're good. That's 11-0 vote. Your bill passes. Thank you, Senator Kitchens. I appreciate it. Motion to adjourn? It's all right. We're adjourned. Thank you for being today. Second, Senator.